Texans fans, welcome in to Texans Today. I am Will Scott. The 2023 NFL Draft is in the books, and the Texans have clearly come away as one of the big winners from the last 3 days. It all started on Thursday night, selecting C.J. Stroud, their new franchise quarterback, with the number 2 overall selection. I am giving this pick an A. Credit to Nick Caserio and D'Amico Ryans for not overthinking this pick. The Texans needed a quarterback desperately, and they needed to address that need early in the draft, and they take the best quarterback on the board in C.J. Stroud, who was a clear top 2 quarterback in this class. Will Levis, Anthony Richardson, a project. C.J. Stroud is the real deal. He showed that in his career at Ohio State, and especially this past season. Over 40 touchdowns for the Heisman Trophy finalist. 6 interceptions, over 3,600 passing yards, a 66.3% completion percentage. His arm strength's good. He's accurate. The dude is a winner, and I expect him to win a lot of games in Houston for the Texans. And then the Texans pulled off the shocker of the first round, I should say. Will Anderson Jr., the pick for me is an easy A. I mean, this is an outstanding pick. The Texans, I think, had a dilemma in the draft process. They're like, do we take a quarterback or do we take Will Anderson? They took both, trading up with the Arizona Cardinals to go from pick 12 to pick 3 and take the best player in this entire draft. Over 50 tackles this past season at Alabama, 17 tackles for loss, 10 sacks, 1 forced fumble, 27 sacks the last 2 seasons at Alabama for Will Anderson Jr. He's going to be making plays for the Texans defense this season. Who was your favorite Texans draft pick? Go down in the comments section. Let me know. I think a lot of y'all are going to say one of the guys that we just mentioned, C.J. Stroud and Will Anderson, certainly highlight the 2023 Houston Texans draft class. Everyone was stunned when the Texans made that move to go up and get Will Anderson. And keep in mind, in the weeks and days leading up to the draft, a lot of people thought, if not most people, the Texans were going to pass on a quarterback in the first round. They got it right, taking C.J. Stroud, and they won the draft, getting Will Anderson as well. They had 2 of the top 3 picks, and they took one of the best quarterbacks available, obviously, and they took the best player in this class in Will Anderson. Another huge need for the Texans was center, and they addressed that late in the second round, taking Penn State offensive lineman Juice Scruggs. I'm going to give this pick a B, and people in the chat sports office were actually clowning me that I'm not giving this pick a lower grade. Did they reach on him? Yeah. But was he their guy? Yes, he was probably the highest rated center available on the Texans draft board. So I am perfectly okay with going with Juice Scruggs here in the second round because it was a huge need for Houston. Probably after quarterback and maybe edge rusher, the biggest need on this Texans team heading into this draft. I don't think they wanted to run it back with Quessenberry as the starting center, at least the starting center with no competition in camp. Juice Scruggs, do not be surprised if he is the Texans starting center week 1. The Texans actually drafted another center. We're going to get to him here in a second. But first, Nathaniel Dell, a.k.a. Tank, is staying in the 7-1-3. The University of Houston standout, going right down the road to play professional football at NRG Stadium in Houston. Nearly 1,400 receiving yards this past season at U of H for Tank Dell, one of the best wideouts in the entire country. First team All-AAC selection, 17 receiving touchdowns, over 100 receptions for Tank Dell. He wanted to be a Texan. In fact, there's a screenshot. He DM'd the Texans on Instagram before the draft and said, "Keep me in the H." They did, and I think Texans fans are just thrilled with that pick. They needed to go wide receiver in the third round because they did not in the first or second round. Tank Dell was the guy I wanted, guy I think a lot of us wanted, and they got him. Now, tomorrow, we're going to get you guys an undrafted free agents tracker video. So be sure to subscribe for that. Hit the subscribe link below, youtube.com/TexansTV. Going to be interesting to see what the Texans do with their undrafted free agents. Certainly a lot of talent to choose from. A lot of talented guys went undrafted this year. Now let's talk about Dylan Horton, the 4th-round selection for the Texans. Got you guys a vid earlier today recapping that pick, so be sure to check that out as well. Really like this pick. I'm going to give it an A-. Had 10 sacks this past season for TCU. Very productive player in the Big 12. So they go edge rusher with Will Anderson. They go edge rusher again with Dylan Horton. He was actually born in Houston, so a homecoming for the TCU product, going from the Metroplex in Dallas to the superior Texas City, Houston, with the 4th-round pick. Love this pick here for the Houston Texans. And again, when you look at this Texans defensive line, I think it was important to address that need here in this draft. They were stressing the importance of doing that, I think, when they went up and got Will Anderson and also took Dylan Horton here out of TCU. And I love this pick. My goodness, this is my favorite pick today, not just by the Texans, but in general. Henry Tohoa, the linebacker from Alabama, slam dunk, A-plus pick, unbelievable selection here for the Texans in round 5. And when this pick came across my screen, I'm like, okay, D'Amico Ryans, new Texans head coach, linebacker at Alabama. Henry Tohoa, linebacker at Alabama, being selected by the Texans. You got to know D'Amico Ryans had a lot to do with this pick. Had a phenomenal career at Alabama. First team All-SEC. Was an All-American with the Crimson Tide. So I was thrilled with this pick. I did not think he was going to be on the board this late. 94 tackles and 3 sacks the last year at Alabama for Tohoa. And now he's going to be involved in this Texans defense. And I think have a significant role as a 5th-round pick in this Texans defense next season. You got to know D'Amico Ryans. Absolutely loved this pick. I really like this selection as well. I think I liked all the Texans picks. Jarrett Patterson, the offensive lineman from Notre Dame, could play center, could play guard at the professional level, was a guard his last season at Notre Dame, but also was a center for the Fighting Irish. 4-year starter, began at center before spending last season at guard, so he does have more experience at center. At least in college he did. 0 sacks allowed in over 1,600 college snaps. That's wild. So, yeah, I'm pretty thrilled with this pick here for the Texans because of his versatility. Kind of like Juice Scruggs. Could play center, could play guard. I expect him, though, to be a center in the National Football League. Maybe compete with Quessenberry and Scruggs for the starting job. I said yesterday after the Tank Dell pick that I expect the Texans to take another wide receiver. They did with Xavier Hutchinson from Iowa State, the All-American going in the 6th round, number 205 overall to the Houston Texans. This was an outstanding selection. Over 1,100 receiving yards for the Cyclones in 2022. 6 touchdowns, over 100 receptions. So you didn't go receiver in the 1st round like I think a lot of us thought they were going to do, maybe go that route at number 12, but they trade up for Will Anderson instead. So it was important for the Texans to address the receiver need. They did with Tank Dell and Xavier Hutchinson, both great selections. And then in the 7th round, the Texans selected Brandon Hill, the safety from Pittsburgh, with their last pick. He had a great career at Pitt, and I did want the Texans to go safety here day 3. They did so with Hill. Tom Downey's 11th ranked safety, number 154th overall prospect. So you get him in the 7th round. He's expected to be maybe a 5th round pick. Great value selection here for Nick Caserio and the Texans. He was one of the fastest safeties in this draft class. Grade the Texans draft. Type A, B, C, D, or F. Let me know, how do you feel about the job Nick Caserio and the Houston front office did in this draft? They won this draft. I'm giving the Texans an A. You fill so many needs across the board. Great value picks. I loved what Houston did here. Really, in every single round, Houston made the most of their selections. This was a franchise-changing couple of days for the Houston Texans. H-Town, you should be smiling because the Houston Texans are back.